I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. Hello, everybody. My update is that I submitted my quarterly B&O taxes. Part of what I like to do on this podcast is demystify what it's like to be a freelancer and a contractor and run your own business. And so something I learned is that not only do you do federal taxes, that's separate, but in Washington state, we have to submit what's called B&O taxes, and you have to do that quarterly. I didn't do that, and I got in trouble. Mostly, I just got a bunch of phone calls, and so I had to submit for Q3, Q4, and then I just recently did Q1. I didn't have to owe in 3 and 4 because Washington has this kind of small business credit, but I did have to owe in Q1, so it kind of just depends on what you're making each quarter. So, yay for me, and if you guys have your own business, you haven't done it, they're going to call you. My other update is that April and May are really busy months for me, which is great. A great problem to have. I have a lot of different clients and different trips. So you might start to hear some special episodes. I've got somebody taking over in May and doing a takeover episode, and we'll see what he does with it. And then I might do a couple solo episodes just to kind of get through these 2 months. And the last thing I'll say is that I am interviewing somebody at the Northwest Event Show. I did this last year. If you remember, it was the planner for the Grammys. This year, it's this really cool guy who is incorporating health and wellness into conference planning, but not like the woo-woo, oh, this is nice, but like how it's actually helping drive profits and making your conference more successful. So that's going to be April 28th, and I will be repurposing it for the podcast like I did last time too. So I really encourage you to come see it in person. I'll talk about it more in other episodes, but if not, I will be posting it on my channel as well. Okay. Those are my updates, and I'm going to introduce my guest here. It's Heather Snavely, President and CEO of AAA Washington. Hello.
Hey. Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Doing well, yeah. We're over here in Factoria area.
Yes.
And I didn't realize AAA is like right next to the T-Mobile headquarters. And
it
you have
is.
A huge office.
Yes. We're right off the highway. We're right next to them. You can see us when you drive by, so wave.
I know, I saw the big logo on the building. Very cool.
Yeah,
and I love all the branding, which we're going to talk a lot about. Before this, so you've been here almost 5 years as this role at AAA Washington. And before that, you had leadership roles at PCC, Brooks Running, and Microsoft, where you worked at the Xbox brand. She also serves on the board of KEXP. And how long have you been in Seattle?
Since 99.
Okay, so good chunk of time, yeah. So the first section of this episode, we're going to talk a lot about kind of your history and your path and marketing and all that kind of stuff. So before we dive into that, I was thinking about, as you go into the CEO role, I noticed you have a LinkedIn newsletter that you do. You speak at events. You were just at Mentoring Monday. You're choosing to do this podcast. And I think as you go into that CEO role, those types of things, those marketing, PR type stuff becomes part of your job. So how do you kind of figure out when to say yes to that? How do you look at that as like, when do I work in the business and when do I work on the business? Kind of what do you think about when you think?
It's a great question, and I actually get it a lot. There's two parts to it. There's what I do for AAA Washington, and then there's the part of what I do because I love it. The newsletter on LinkedIn actually came from ideas and thoughts that I had around leadership that I was wrestling with, and I love to write. It's a cornerstone of my career. I've done a lot of it. I dreamt of being a novelist when I was younger and never did it. And so it's just something that comes naturally to me. And I started to figure out that as I shared these ideas in that newsletter, they were thoughts that other leaders had that no one else was really talking about or wrestling with around what it's like to suddenly become a leader and how you sit in that, and at times the things that you're just not certain about and the questions you ask yourself. And so that one is, for me, is passion. I do it for that reason. The other pieces are, okay, for AAA, where can I make an impact or create more awareness that AAA Washington is actually a local company and we're a great place to work? And hey, did you know that we started over 120 years ago? Those types of things are also what I think about. So I would kind of balance them both. Like, what am I passionate about personally that leans into leadership? And then how can I help AAA as a brand, AAA Washington, actually be better known?
Yeah. It's it is helping the business by doing some of these things and speaking and getting the word out, of course.
Yes.
When you mentioned that about leadership struggles, I feel like sometimes it can be lonely at the top and you don't want to air your dirty laundry to like your VP or, your managers, but you do need to talk to somebody. And you also kind of don't want to talk. Sometimes you can talk to your friends, but they're not dealing with exactly the same thing. Do you feel like your relationships with other CEOs in Seattle or anywhere has gotten stronger? Or where do you find some of that companionship in terms of CEO roles?
Couple things. I have an executive coach.
Oh, okay.
And she's someone that I've worked with since I was at PCC. And her philosophy is she'll coach the CEO and their executive team. And so that's how I came into contact with her at PCC. And then when I came into this role as a first-time CEO, I thought probably a good idea to have a coach. And then so she coaches me and my executive team. And so she's a good person to bounce things off because she coaches other CEOs.
Sure.
I have a really good relationship with the former CEO of PCC who hired me at PCC. She's been a great resource. I recently joined a leadership organization that meets monthly with other CEOs and COOs that, again, we're in different industries, so we're not competitive, but it allows us to bounce ideas off each other. And then, I have a board of trustees and, there's a balance because they're technically my boss.
Right.
But there's times that I can use them too. So that's kind of how I've found that support.
The coach coaches the executive team. That's so helpful because then they have so much more context. When you're like, God, Brad over there keeps doing this thing. She's like, oh, I know.
Yes.
But have you thought about it this way from his, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like she can kind of help bridge that gap. Okay, so we're going to talk about 3 different topics today. The first one, I don't have a catchy title for it. Maybe we'll come up with it, but it's just AAA. What is it? So that's what we're going to talk about. And then the second one is Brooks Running is going to sponsor the salmon race at the Mariners games.
Which is exciting, yeah.
I know. And the last one is that Rec Room is shutting down, and so is Columbia Tower Club.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some things that are shutting down and what that means. What you'll notice, kind of the elephant in the room that I'm not covering this episode, is the millionaires tax that did pass. I try to balance between business news and policy, and obviously this really affects business, but I just didn't feel like it fit in this episode, so you might hear me talk about it in some other episodes. All right, Heather, let's get started. So first one doesn't have an article connected to it, but we are going to dive into both your journey and AAA, and I want to start with we interviewed the CEO of White Pages. I don't know if you know Lee McMillan.
No.
But she had a big marketing background, CMO type stuff, and then moved into CEO. And we were talking about how it's pretty rare, that pipeline between marketing and CEO, which I think is silly. But a lot of times you'll see a finance, like a CFO to CEO. So how has that shown up for you? And how do you think we can kind of change that pipeline?
Yeah. Well, fun fact, Harvard Business Review actually did an article a few years ago, and research shows that CFOs actually don't make your best CEOs because they're so focused on the dollars, and so they make money decisions. Your best CEOs actually come from marketing and other parts of the organization. And
so take risk, right?
Yes, because you're willing to take calculated risk, right? Yeah. And I think that's you have to do that in marketing, right? You have to go for, you have a big idea. Sometimes you just have to go for it and try it. But you have to balance when you pull back and not. But how do you change that pipeline? I think part of it is getting people from marketing actually in those roles. And there's more and more. I was just at dinner with another CEO last night who came from marketing as well. So I think you're seeing more of that. I think marketing and CMO role have changed pretty significantly, even since I started in marketing, because I came up through communications, worked at the Minnesota State Lottery, and then eventually transitioned. When I went to Brooks Running, that's when I transitioned to marketing. And the role since then, it used to be really brand-centered. Companies were very focused on brand. You could, this is going to date me, but you could go on Oprah Winfrey, and if you were on Oprah, you saw your sales spike, right? You had instant. Yeah. Even TV advertising then, right? If you had a great ad and you ran it, you could see this spike. And we're so, performance marketing is so important now, and you have to really think about the business as a marketing leader in a different way than you did in the past. And so I think how that role has evolved has made those leaders even stronger candidates for that CEO role. And I think it depends on the industry as well. You know, for AAA, we're a membership organization. And so for me to come from PCC Community Markets, a co-op, where that was the center of who we were, it was a natural evolution. And the board, it made sense to the board. And so it really is, it's a combination of that changing CMO role and also the right industries for it too.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of your history at PCC, and I want to know, we're going to talk more about marketing in a bit, but what has been kind of the through line? Because some people might think those are pretty different industries from
Yeah.
Microsoft to Brooks to PCC, but I'm sure there's something that kind of connects all of that for you. What is that?
Yeah. I have been really fortunate to work in industries and for companies that I love. And I think that's the through line. It's crazy. So that's been the connection, is there's always just been something that resonated to me personally and the things that I love and cared about in my life.
And I think it's so refreshing to hear because sometimes we have to get a job because we have to get a job. But I think a lot of times people are looking for the right pay and this will look good on my resume. And I am also not really like that. Like I want to do something that I care about and I'm passionate about. And you're just going to do a better job when you do that. So I like that that's kind of where you look at things.
Well, and can I add something on the pay thing? So I've never taken a job for pay.
Okay, same. I think
Yes,
I'm crazy sometimes. But.
No, I never have. And the only time I turned down a job for pay, I regretted it. And this universe let me have a do-over. So
Really?
I was at Brooks and I was talking to a recruiter for the role at PCC. And I turned it down because I was like, it doesn't pay enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Turned it down. And I'm like, I looked at my husband. I said, I'm going to regret that because I loved the CEO. I loved the team. And fortunately, the CEO came back and said, hey, let's talk again in a few weeks. And she kept me warm. And then she eventually said, listen, we keep talking about you. So why don't you come in, meet with the new VP of strategy, meet with the VP of merchandising, and we'll discuss. And I ended up going with the role anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, I also, at the same time, it all came together. My role was eliminated at Brooks.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I have this thing now. So the pay was, I was like, well, at least I have something to go to.
You feel like that was the universe being like, hello? Like, we got to go. This is where it's like, here you go.
Exactly. The universe is like, take it. Come on. Yeah. And it was, honestly, after, I used to say Cranium was the best job I'd ever had. PCC was the best job.
The best.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Amazing team. The executive team there was phenomenal. We had this great mix of people who had been with the co-op for decades. Our CFO at the time had been there 45 years. He was the very first CFO in the organization, very first VP of HR. But then the folks that came in that were new respected the co-op so much and collectively we knew what got us there wasn't going to get us to where we needed to go. And we were in a transformation mode, and we'll talk about it later, but we redid the brand, we redid membership. There was just this opportunity. We opened stores, and it was just a team that gelled and worked well together, and we had a great leader in the CEO, Kate Hardy. So, yeah, it fantastic.
Sounds so simple, but it really is all about the people.
Absolutely.
Totally
and there was a magic. We just had a magic with that team that was hard to capture again.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about AAA.
Yes.
Most people think it's just roadside assistance. And by most people, I mean also me. But I will say, I was trying to think about this. I did go into a AAA because I had to get my permit for driving in Italy.
Yes, your IDP, International Driving Permit. Yep. We're the only ones who sell those, yes.
Yes, okay. So briefly kind of tell us what else is going on at AAA besides just roadside assistance.
Yes, so you're right. Everyone thinks about us about roadside, but we're also the largest personal lines insurance agency in Washington State. So we sell insurance. We sell AAA insurance, plus you can get Progressive or Safeco, all different kinds of insurance from us. Auto, home, umbrella. We're a travel agency. So we can book you on your next cruise or your next adventure, wherever you want to go. We have great perks and rewards, discounts locally. We partner with Passport, which some listeners may know, and you can get discounts at local restaurants. I actually get the place we take our dog to board, we get a 15% discount through AAA. Oh. Okay. I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. So you save a ton. So we do all of those things. And that's really everyone knows roadside. No one knows the rest.
Is it one set annual fee or is it like different for everybody?
So the classic membership is $75 a year.
Okay, I wanted to put that on the air because sometimes I thought a Costco membership was so much more expensive than it actually was. And I don't know. Yeah. So 75, that's totally doable for all.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, even if you didn't use everything and you only used it for the tow, a regular tow is $150.
Oh, well.
Right? And so you're saving that cost. But then you also get discounts on you get a discount on your insurance, great deals in travel. Yeah. So that's definitely worth it.
You mentioned insurance, and I was reading that you launched some sort of new insurance partnership, or is that what was that new insurance thing?
Yes. So in 2024, we started selling AAA insurance in Washington and Northern Idaho. We started actually an insurance company, a joint venture with a company called Mopfre. big insurance company. We started our own insurance company with them, and we're able to sell AAA insurance through that.
And I imagine it's like you're making money off that. That's a good strategy. It worked out well for you guys.
It did. And it allows us to diversify. I mean, the beauty of, from a business perspective, what I love about AAA is it's a diversified portfolio, right? So membership, like Costco, is the majority of our revenue, probably about 75%. And then we also have insurance, we have travel, and within the insurance business, we have the company that we've started, but then we also have the insurance agency. And so we're able to balance it, right? And that all allows us to offer more than just one product to our members, right? So whatever you need, we have a carrier for that.
Yeah.
And then from that business perspective, again, if in a year where travel might not do as well, insurance might do better, membership might do better, and it balances out for you in the long run.
Yeah, I worked with associations planning their conferences, and we talked about how it was a three-legged stool between events, membership, and sponsorship. And kind of like if you're down on events, you're up here. Yeah, that kind of thing. Another big change you made coming in was closing some in-person stores. So I mentioned I went in person to get my permit, and I'm curious how that was and what drove that decision, and kind of how that, people kind of don't like change. So how did that go?
Yes, there's a lot of members who are very passionate about the stores, but what we looked at how many people were actually going into the store. No, I don't fully remember the data point now. I think it was less.
4%?
I was going to say less than 4% of our 1.2 million members were actually going into our physical locations. And so when you're looking at business decisions, do you keep something open for less than 4% of your audience? And we really wanted to make investments in digital. And how can we better reach more of our members? Because your stores, we had 11 stores, we have these locations. That doesn't even serve the entire state, right?
Yeah.
You still have to, there's still people who had to drive hours in order to get to a location. If we could have digital services that allowed people everywhere across Washington to get those same things, that felt like it was a better service to the membership versus serving just those few individual members.
Were people in AAA like, no, don't take our stores from us? Or were people like, yeah, okay, that makes sense?
It was a combination.
Yeah.
It was a combination. And so from a member perspective, there were those who were like, please don't take our stores.
Yeah.
There were a lot who said, I totally understand. And this makes sense. And the way that retail is going and more people are moving digital. Internally, it was a shift as well, because our travel advisors were used to being in the stores and having members come in. And so there's this mental shift of, okay, if people aren't coming in the door, how am I finding people to sell travel to?
Yeah.
And so that requires investment in your MarTech stack and leads, and right. And so that's a shift as well.
Changes their business model. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to talk about EV vehicles. We talk about roadside assistance as like your car breaks down, runs out of gas, whatever. But now we're dealing with kind of a different type of roadside assistance with some of these Teslas and all that kind of stuff. How does AAA prepare for that? How have you guys adapted?
So the interesting thing is the number one thing that usually happens is a flat tire. And there is no spare, so you have to tow.
There's no spare for...
There's no spare in most EVs. Actually, I don't think any EV has a spare. So you don't have a spare. So you have to be towed. So, and if you if your battery is low and that's why you're on the side of the road.
Yeah.
If it's a really busy freeway, we don't want to stand there on the side of the freeway to charge you because there's not fast enough chargers that are mobile. So we're going to tow you.
There are mobile chargers, but
you wouldn't want to stand on I-5 and have people blowing by, right?
No, that doesn't sound good. Okay.
No. And so usually it's towing them to a charging station or towing them home, right? So at the end of the day, it hasn't changed significantly because it's still a tow.
Still a tow, yeah.
It's still a tow.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, my last one on this is gas prices are high.
They are.
Did you know? I obviously AAA does. When I was reading all these articles, it was a lot of surveys cited and data cited from AAA. So are there any stats that you want to share? And I know prices are changing every day, but anything you want to share, and also kind of anything you want the public to know about what's going on with gas prices?
Yeah, I think we think about gas prices a lot for two reasons. One, they impact our members, but two, they impact our business, right? So we have a giant fleet and it runs on diesel. And diesel a couple days ago was the highest in Washington state than it's ever been in the history of tracking.
Oh, my God.
Right? And so when you think about what it takes to run a business that has a fleet, that's a giant cost that we had not anticipated, that now we have to figure out, okay, and how much more is it going to rise? And will it come down or not?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, because you have to make that up somewhere. And so you don't want to be like, okay, everyone, we're raising our membership prices to account for fuel if the fuel doesn't stay at that rate. But also, like, how long do you work with this less margin,
Exactly. And we have to think about our providers. So we have our own fleet that we own, and those are people that work for us. But then we have service providers around the state that are independent businesses who are just trying to, tow cars and serve people, and that hits them as well. And so we pay a fuel subsidy to them when dollars rise to help ease that a little bit and care for that community. But at the end of the day, it's hurting them too, right? So that's really where we think about the fuel prices is what is the impact to the business? How do we think about it long term so we don't have to raise prices because of it? Mm-hmm. And will it come down or not?
Yeah, it's impacting every industry in ways that some people don't think about. I'm dealing with a client right now where we're doing an event in Rome, and we put everything in a warehouse, and then you take everything from the warehouse to the convention center, wherever you're doing it, and the fuel that it's taking to move all this, we're having to remove something. It's just crazy how some of that is affecting all these different
And you
things.
don't think about it, right? No. It's these little things that you don't think about, even though you do think about it when you go and fuel your car.
Right.
Yes.
Right. When you think about the business side of it, yeah. Okay, well, thank you for educating me on AAA. And we're going to move into our next story, which is Brooks Running is the official running shoe sponsor of the salmon race at the Manors. I'm sure most people have seen that. It started in 2024, that salmon race, and I feel like it's really catching on. We don't know the financials of how much Brooks paid, but it is going to be a multi-year deal. And in addition to the shoes, it's also going to have some logo branding and kind of at the scoreboard and other places, home plate, things like that. So there's more exposure for Brooks. And just I wanted to give a little bit of information about this race. So there's 4 salmon that race. It's king, sockeye, silver, and humpy. And I want to bring this up because my friend's boyfriend is starting a petition. He works in the seafood industry, and he wants to start a petition to have the keta, if I'm saying it right, the keta salmon run.
Oh.
He said there's over 1.5 million keta projected to return to the Puget Sound rivers, which is 4 times the amount projected for sockeye. He said it's the working man's salmon. Whoa. Anyway, he started an Instagram called Let Keta Run. So
oh my God, I love that.
I know. I had to give a shout out. I thought it was funny. But as somebody who used to work at Brooks, was there anything you wanted to say on this?
I absolutely love it. I think there's a playfulness to it that Brooks had kind of gotten away from, I think, in recent years. When I was there, the tagline was Run Happy. And this type of playful marketing was part of our toolkit. And so I love seeing that they're getting back into that. And it's perfect because it's local and it's
so smart.
It's the best thing at the game.
I also think about with events, like if you're trying to sponsor, some of my advice for people that are trying to sponsor, whether it's this kind of thing or something else, is come up with your own idea and pitch it to them. Because we had people pitching to me like, hey, what if we did this at this event? I'm like, actually, great. Yeah, let's do it. And then they'll sponsor it. I think oftentimes people wait for like a sponsorship prospectus and I'll choose package C, where this feels like something where people were in a room of like, what if we did this? And I think it feels like maybe somebody came to the Mariners on it. But okay, so let's talk about creative marketing. What is an example of one of your favorite creative marketing campaigns at any of the companies you worked on?
I know, that was hard. It's like picking your favorite child. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you 3, which I know isn't what you want. When I was at Xbox, I launched Connect for Xbox 360, and I would say that was, I don't know if that was the most creative, but it was the most fun. And it was a time when I sat with a woman on my team who led that piece of the communications business, and the two of us mapped on a whiteboard every piece of PR coverage that we wanted to get, and we hit every single thing and got all of it. Morning shows, cover of Wired magazine, like we did all of it, and it was fun while we did it, and it was such a great product to work on, which that helps when it's a great product. The other one that came to mind was when I was at Brooks. We did a campaign that I loved where the experience came out of the shoe. And so you had these different, the shoe looks beautiful, of course. And then there were different imagery that came out of it in like a cloud, almost like a genie. We called it the genie campaign.
Yeah. Okay.
And what I loved about it is that it was so distinct. And you knew when you looked at it, you're like, That's a Brooks ad. It didn't look like anything else. It couldn't have been a Nike ad. It couldn't have been New Balance. It was so distinctly Brooks and creative and run happy, and I just loved that. And then I have to say PCC. So I did the rebrand for PCC Community Markets.
Yeah, so what was it before and what... Or was it just a rebrand, or did you change the name?
We changed the name too. So it's PCC Natural Markets.
Okay.
And then we changed it to PCC Community Markets.
Okay.
In part because natural as a word had lost its power. And it doesn't entirely mean anything anymore. It meant something different in the 70s.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't mean the same thing today. And we felt like the community and the cooperative part of PCC was what made it most distinct. And so we changed it to Community Markets. And I just think that whole campaign, the tagline was Eat Up. It was centered on Eat Up, yes. So it was centered on coming together around community and shared tables, and we used illustrations so beautifully in that, and I loved everything about that.
What's something you learned from that experience, whether that be in the brainstorm process or, getting feedback from other people? What's your takeaway from that whole process?
The biggest thing, and I say it all the time, I steal it from her, the CEO that I worked with said, we have to go slow to go fast.
We have to go slow to go fast.
Yes.
Okay.
And so typically you'd be at a company. This is the first time ever I was at a company and was told, it's okay if this takes a year.
Yeah, you don't hear that.
You don't hear that, right? It was, we have to bring everyone along because it's a co-op, right? Like you want to bring the employees along, you got to bring the board along. And so we took the time, we did the research. It wasn't rushed. We did the creative. It wasn't rushed. And so we got to dial it in and do it right. And that's something that I carried with me of so often in tech for sure, we would rush things and you would just go fast and then you're like, and we'll clean it up later. But when you land it right the first time, you don't have to do the rewrites.
Say it louder, Heather. I call that manufactured urgency.
Yes, and it's my pet peeve.
I'm like,
I agree.
Do you need this to happen right now, or
yes.
Plan ahead? Okay, so I saw you. With AAA. I feel like there's some work targeting younger generations. I think there was some ad that said "Not your grandma's AAA" or something, right?
Yes.
Okay, and it feels like this deliberate effort to target the younger generation that maybe didn't see the TV spots that we're used to. What do companies get wrong when they're trying to market to different generations, do you think?
This is a great question. We were talking about this earlier with my team. I think what they get wrong is I'm Gen X.
Okay.
You have someone who's Gen X sitting there and saying, well, the way that I thought about it was this way, so that must be the way that my kids think about it, or Gen Z, right? And so you come at it from the wrong angle and the wrong perspective. And one example I'll give you, we were talking about drunk driving. And one of the questions I was asking someone, like, well, but with a younger generation, Gen Z specifically, alcohol usage is down. And so a message around drunk driving, is that really going to resonate? Because it's probably cannabis, or it's probably distractions, or it could be mental health issues. It's like they've got so much going on in their head. It's where they are in life. And for that audience to talk about drunk driving is going to land flat. But if you're talking about it from the perspective of Gen Z, who's very concerned about mental health, who comes to it from that different approach, it's going to connect with them differently, right? I think that's the mistake people make, is that they think everyone thinks the same and everyone approaches it the same way, even though we talk endlessly about different generations, but I'm not sure we always go to the motivating factors and even just what they're grounded in and what they care about deeply. And it is different.
Yeah, and I think we think what we know what the other generation's all about. I mean, I'm a millennial, and I remember millennials got shit on for a while, and it was like, millennials like this, millennials like that. And I remember being like, that's not right.
Right.
There's so much sweeping generalization that often I think can be got wrong, and we do the same for Gen Z. So I appreciate you saying that. I think I've told this story before, but I was in the brand department, and I was younger at the time, and by far the youngest in the room, and I was in the events department, so I wasn't really on the brand and marketing, and they showed us a clip of what their commercials were going to be, and I just thought it was the dumbest thing. And I remember somebody in the room being like, we really think it's going to land with the younger generation. And I was like, I'm like I'm the younger generation. Did anybody ask? They use this really expensive agency and all this kind of stuff. And I think just simply talking, I don't know if you guys do like test runs of some of your marketing or whatever on younger generations, or any different generation to get their feedback. But that can be as simple as that.
Yeah. We have younger people on our team.
See, okay.
And so we bounce things off them. I'm not a big fan of consumer testing of marketing.
Tell me more.
I don't believe in it. Doing focus groups to test a concept. I mean, some really good marketing is this balance of art and science, right? And I always think of it, if you're a Lost fan, I loved Lost. It's like the difference between John Locke and Jack, right? Like one is the science, one is the art or woo-woo. And that's really what really good brand or marketing is. And when you go into focus groups, and even with performance marketing, you start to get, when you're A/B testing everything, it's so science that you lose the emotional resonance that is what makes great marketing great.
Well said. Yes. I think about some of those silly little things that are happening on TikTok that blow up a brand. And it was like, this would have never passed in a boardroom, right? It was like something so silly and stupid, but like it tracks with people. And so I think, to your point, when you get a little too scientific about it, it doesn't land as much.
Well, even like this week, the Kit Kat heist.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh my God, you haven't seen the Kit Kat heist?
What happened?
There was a literal heist. So Kit Kat posted and said that someone had stolen thousands of pounds of Kit Kats, and they were trying to track them down.
Oh my God.
It was hysterical, and it was the day before April Fool's, and they're like, "This actually is," it was this week, so April Fool's week. Like, this is not an April Fool's joke. This is legit happened, and so then brands started to jump on it, and it was super funny because it's like,
so good.
They were basically, each brand was talking about how they secretly had the stash, or, asking for a friend about where we might get rid of this stash. And it just created this viral moment. And that is not something that you would ever get.
No, and it's
from
smart
A/B
for the
testing.
other companies to be able to move quickly and be like, how can we tie into this?
Exactly.
Yeah. To your point about test things, I don't like doing surveys for events of like, well, ask everybody if they want XYZ. Why don't we ask everybody? And I'm like, no, because I don't know. Not to say that I think I know what everybody wants, but people don't know what they want.
Absolutely.
And I don't know.
Well, Steve Jobs, that's what he always said, right? Like, people don't actually know what they want. And sometimes you have to create it.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to know your audience, but yes.
Absolutely. You have to know your audience.
One more on this and we'll move on. I love talking about marketing. It's so interesting.
I do too. We could talk about it all day.
Okay, so I want to talk about digital advertising. So it's sort of shifting a little bit. But you'd mentioned part of closing the stores was to spend more on the digital services and I assume marketing. And I read somewhere about AAA that they weren't spending very much on it and it was a specific shift to it. I think nowadays it can feel really overwhelming for business owners of, well, we used to put money on Facebook and now we put it on Instagram and now we should do Google ads, but then also we should run something on TikTok and pay influencers and do an influencer dinner. And, that can feel really overwhelming. So what advice do you have on for people kind of figuring out what their digital strategy is?
Yeah, I think I would start with the basics. You got to do basics. I think search, super important. People are enamored by influencers, but the thing I find really challenging, when I was at national brands, so Brooks and Xbox, because even in those days we had influencers at some level. They just weren't what they are today, right?
But yeah.
National brand makes total sense. I got to PCC and we tried to dabble in influencers, and what you find is if you're a local, regional brand, it's really hard to find influencers who are going to hit your target market in your area. So personally, I feel like it's a waste of money if you're a small business owner in Washington State or in Seattle and you're trying to reach this market. Are there influencers that you can find that might hit it? Micro influencers?
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then, there's the challenge of with social, the algorithms change all the time. It's very hard. I do think depending on what your brand does, you have to think about what's the right medium, right? So there's the basics of entry. You have to have a website. You should have some plan around email and how you're going to collect names so you can communicate with people on your terms. Search is a good place to be. And then I think with regard to social, it's truly, if you have to feed the beast. If you're going to be on social, you have to feed the beast. And I think the thing that always drives me crazy about social media, and it used to be about this in PR. When I was first in PR, the thing was, well, just pick up the phone and you can get a piece in the New York Times. And you're like, oh my God, do you know how long it takes?
Just give them a call.
Right. You're like, it's just one call, right? Oh, no. Like, you have to craft the pitch and you have to find the right person, and it's a ton of calls, and then it's interviews, and then it's working with them, and hopefully it comes out the way you want it, right? But everyone thinks they could do it. Mm-hmm. Social media is that today. Every executive or leader thinks they can do social media because they have an Instagram account or their kid has a TikTok. And so they're like, you just throw something up there. Mm-hmm. It is not that easy. So much thought needs to go into what you, as a business person, you should be thinking hard about what it is you're putting up on your social. It should be engaging. What are you trying to accomplish with it? You just have to think differently. And I think too often people take for granted that, I have a social account. Mm-hmm. I have an Instagram account. My kid has a TikTok. I can figure it out.
Do you think executives are still stuck in the it should be a commercial. Tell them about our product. Tell them how great our product is. Do you think people have started to understand that it could be something totally not about your product yet?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I wish I could say yes. And the challenge is, I think my team is lucky because I came from marketing, and 97% of the time I'm like, go for it, man. Yeah. Right? And I don't put the restrictions on it that I would have that someone else might. And I had that benefit. Actually, at PCC, the CEO there would give me more comments on copy. She would send me a note and be like, why did we use this word or this picture? And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. She didn't ask me about open rates on the emails. She didn't ask me about those things. She wanted to make sure the brand was properly represented and the brand voice was coming through. It was. She came from Starbucks, so it helped. And that was that Howard Schultz effect of you care for the brand. And so I give that to them. But most executives aren't that way, and they just want features, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah. I have a personal example, but they're a new client, so I don't. Okay, we're going to move to our last article, which is kind of sad. I got to stop ending on sad ones. 2 shutdowns, so Rec Room and Columbia Tower Club. So start with Rec Room. You might recognize when I recognize the pictures and kind of the branding of it. I'm not in gaming, so I haven't played it, but it's a Seattle-based social gaming company and is once valued at $3.5 billion.
Wow.
And it's been in business for about 10 years, and they're shutting down June 1st. They have said that they couldn't find a path to profitability despite serving over 150 million players over the past decade. Basically, costs are high, and even though we had a shit ton of money, we can't keep up with it because costs are too high. And at one point, they'd raised almost $300 million. And what I appreciated in the article is that they said they could have kept going until 2029. And that's when they would have run out of money. That's how long their roadmap was and runway. But at that point, they would have just run out of money and had to lay people off. And now I think they can do it in a way
that's respect.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so I do appreciate that they recognize that. I have a lot of questions of what their accounting looked like, but that's for them to figure out. Anyway, okay. So the next one is Columbia Tower Club. This is shocking news to me.
Yeah, I was surprised by this one too.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you a member? Have you been?
No, I haven't, but I was surprised.
It's been 41 years, so 4 decades. Columbia Tower Club closing at the end of this month. For those not familiar, it's the top floors of the Columbia Center downtown. It's a private event space. I've done events there, and it's also a members club, so co-working, things like that. They're going to have their members transfer to the Collective in South Lake Union. They own both of those spaces, so they're just their statement said that they're going to focus operations on this one place in South Lake Union. I assume because Columbia Tower Club was more expensive and they're making more money in South Lake Union. But anyway, that's the update. I am curious to see what happens with Rainier Club and the WAC. Are they next? Are they also struggling? Are they going to get some of the members from Columbia Tower Club and benefit from it? Where are we going with membership clubs in general? Those are questions that I start having.
I think those are excellent questions. When I would expand beyond membership clubs and to membership. So you think of SAM, Seattle Art Museum, membership. We have membership, I think, across the board, with the exception of Costco. I think most membership organizations are not seeing incredible growth. I think part of that is generational, I believe. I think millennials, Gen Z, aren't as drawn to things that are membership things. And I think how we think of membership has changed because you have subscriptions now, right? And so what does membership really mean when you have a subscription?
How is it different? Yeah.
How is it different, and how are you defining it, and what am I gaining from it? And honestly, social clubs, I mean, I have never really belonged to social clubs like that. We did have a Rainier membership with AAA when I started. We don't anymore because I find social engagements in other ways and didn't need a club for that. And I wonder if there's a similar thread where people are meeting in other ways and building community differently than they used to.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions around it. How much of it is that people are working remote, so they're not going downtown at all anymore? Is it that we're finding community online and TikTok spaces and Instagram spaces? And, is it that younger generation's not drinking as much? There's a bunch of different things. Or like you said, we're just tired of paying subscriptions to things. But as you said, AAA is a member-based organization with 1.2 million members in Washington and northern Idaho. How do you approach keeping your members and building this and showing the value of it? What do you think about?
Well, it's about creating value, right? So, and making sure people know beyond roadside. Because the reality is, when was the last time you had to have your car towed?
I don't know. Years ago.
Exactly. And so if you build a business on something where you don't know if someone's going to need you in 3 years, that's not a great business model, right? And so, yes, it's peace of mind. You know that if something were to happen,
life insurance, yeah.
But in order to actually create value for members, we need to be on their mind a little bit more. And so that's where insurance is really important. And so if we know that if you have both roadside with us, if you have a membership and you use insurance, you're more likely to renew. If you use insurance and travel, it increases significantly. If you use insurance and perks and, the passport discounts that I mentioned, it increases. And so it's really about creating stickiness and value and adding on to what people are getting out of the membership. And that's really our focus. And so really, we have all those things. It's just making people aware that they exist.
Right. Telling people about them. Yeah. I was thinking about what things I'm a member of, and I was an AMC Stubbs member.
I almost did. I am a Regal person.
Oh, you are.
I like their popcorn better.
Whoa.
And it's not self-serve. I don't like self-serve popcorn. But I've thought about the Stubbs. Did you like it?
I did. I was trying to figure out why I liked it. It was like, you can skip the line, but I went to the one where there was literally never a line.
Yeah.
And you can get an extra large popcorn. I like to go to the movies alone. So I'm like, I'm not even using these benefits, but for some reason I like being a Stubbs member.
Yeah.
Why is that? And I can't quite put, maybe but I think there's some sense of like community, and it's kind of silly.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know, a movie club membership. You do get discounts when you buy the food and drink. And
did you have the unlimited pass one or just regular?
No, my friend's an A-lister. I'm just a Stubbs member.
Oh, geez.
But there's tiering though. Tiering is part of the strategy, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say, so I love Nordstrom.
Okay.
I absolutely love Nordstrom. And in their program, and they have levels as well. I'm an icon. And so I get unlimited alterations. They invite you to like a holiday event every year where you get to shop in the downtown store with other people at that level. And they have special perks and events. And I love it and will always want to be a member of that. And so there's certain things that I think, same as the AMC one, right? There's certain things where you're like, I don't know why I love this, but I like the added perks. And so that's what we also try to think about from a AAA perspective is with Nordstrom, it's the experiential aspect, right? Yes, I get Nordy notes. Cool. But I love that I don't have to think about alterations, and I love the holiday party every year. And there's these little touches or events that happen throughout the year that I get invited to. Those things I appreciate. And so experiential things on top of the points or whatever, I think is what really makes people stick with it.
Yeah, I think thinking beyond just, you get beyond the money savings, there has to be an emotional draw to it.
Absolutely.
For people to feel special. Speaking of membership, one more on this one, then we'll close out. But you launched some sort of new membership product. What problem were you trying to solve when you did that? And what is that?
It's called Everyday Membership. It's $25. It does not have emergency roadside.
Okay.
And so the problem there was, not everyone has a car. But there's benefits that we have that you might enjoy. And so you don't get, with that one, you don't get emergency roadside and you don't get the insurance discount, but you still get the travel benefits, you get the perks benefits, passport discounts. So there's still some interesting offering, and it's kind of an entryway into AAA membership.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share on member organizations at all before we wrap?
I mean, I think the last thing I would share is many membership organizations are centered on serving their members, not necessarily investors, stakeholders, or the street. And I think that is a different lens that we look at the business through. And AAA Washington in particular, we're a not-for-profit corporation. So we're not a 501c3, but we're not-for-profit, and we're a C Corp. So when we make money, we don't pay it out to the board. It doesn't go to shareholders. It goes back into the business to serve members. And so the why behind our choices is different than when you're a for-profit company. And PCC, same thing, owned by its members, right? And so they make decisions for the membership. And that is a very big distinction. I think Costco is an exception. It's a true corporation for profit, but they really make decisions in the same way as other membership organizations. They're an outlier. And so I think I would encourage people, as you look at organizations and what to support, yes, support local businesses, but also can you support membership businesses? Because they are thinking through a different lens to serve the greater good, not just to put money in someone's pocket.
It's so true. Yes. Okay, last question and I'll let you go, which is, what's something you're not doing anymore? We're stopping doing it.
Yes. I'll tell you what I'm trying to stop doing. Okay. And my Kit Kat example says I'm not super successful, but I'm trying to minimize my Instagram.
Okay, Instagram specifically.
Instagram. It's the only social media other than LinkedIn. It's the only social media that I'm on. And at the beginning of the year, I made a commitment to not be on it. And I did really well until the Super Bowl. And then I was like, I need to know what's going on with the Bad Bunnies halftime show.
Oh, I was going to say from a marketing perspective, like that's business.
Right? Oh, no. Well, that used to be my excuse, but I'm like, no, it doesn't work. So I needed to understand Bad Bunny. And then Taylor Swift dropped the Opalite video. And then I need to understand everything in that.
Obviously.
And then current affairs happened. So I've been trying to dial back on that. I will say I'm also trying to dial back on my consumption of the New York Times. So those are my two things that I'm trying to stop.
To not do it or just be better?
I'm trying to cold turkey it, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you. Pray for me. Yeah.
Heather, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I've learned a lot about AAA and marketing, and I super appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insights.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much. I had a blast.
This has been The Weekly, with production assistance from Nick Patry. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.